Welcome to Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs, the podcast that gives you an unfiltered behind-the-scenes look at what it's really like being a woman in the middle who's over 50 and following her entrepreneurial dreams. Grab a superhero cape, girlfriend, because you deserve one. I'm your host, Master Certified Life Coach and Midlife Mentor, Suzy Rosenstein, and I am excited to inspire you with interviews that feature all of this midlife amazingness. Let's go. Hey there, welcome back to the show. We have another really exciting interview ahead of us about having a goal to change the field of sleep. Today, you're going to be meeting Amy Korn-Reavis, a woman in the middle entrepreneur who works with people to improve their sleep, decrease their stress, and help them enjoy their lives. Welcome to the show, Amy. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Suzy. I really appreciate that opportunity.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here. I know we're going to have a great conversation. This is an awesome topic, and I've been working on my sleep lately, so seriously. But I also want to talk about your midlife entrepreneur story. We'll be talking about your business and what's going really well, and also what midlife issues might be getting in your way to some extent, a hiccup here or there, some kind of a glitch, and might be challenging for you in your life as well as being a business owner. So let's start out with how old you are, how long you've been an entrepreneur, and a little bit about what you do in the world. Take it away.
So I'm 57 years old, or 57 years young, and I am a sleep coach, but a sleep coach has a lot to do with things that are not necessarily about sleep. Because when you think about it, the things that rob us of sleep are the problems we have during the day. But I've been in the field of sleep for over 30 years. I was a respiratory therapist. I was burnt out. And they knew I was burnt out because I was working in the ER one night and a patient came in who was gored by a bull, and everybody's like, "Oh, you guys see this? This is so cool." And I'm like, "Yeah, whatever." And they're like, "Oh, Amy's burned." So they had a position in the sleep lab, and they're like, "Can you go up and maybe work there for a little bit?" And I was like, "Sure." I was one of those people, like, if you gave me a learning opportunity, I'd be the first one to put my hand up. And I went up there, and 2 days after I started working there, the person who was supposed to train me quit. They gave me a photocopy of a textbook and wished me luck.
Oh my God.
So I learned, terrible. And this was before Google and before, right? This is where we had dial-up, right? Dial-up AOL. And so I did as much research as I could. I spent time in the hospital library. I went and I learned as much as I could about sleep, and I fell in love with the field. And I've done a lot of different things. I've worked at a couple of colleges. I wrote college curriculum. I've managed a sleep lab. I've helped other sleep labs grow their programs. But I always saw this really big gap in sleep. And that really big gap was that people have problems falling asleep and staying asleep. And if you go to the doctor, they're going to do one of two things. They're going to test you for sleep apnea. And if you have it, they're going to give you a CPAP or an oral appliance, or you have troubles going to sleep. You don't have sleep apnea. They hand you a pill and tell you good luck. But all that doesn't really work. Or now they give you a book or an app. And they're like, still, it's good luck. There's this big gap. And especially as women of a certain age, we have more problems sleeping because of the changes in our hormone. They actually did a survey, a National Sleep Foundation does a survey every year. They found that 70% of women have difficulty sleeping.
70%?
Yes.
Wow.
70% of the people who answered, females who answered, said they had trouble sleeping. And 65% said they got up at least once a night to go to the bathroom.
And what about
nobody's talking about them?
My dog's waking me up because he has to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, well, and that's part of what bothers our sleep, but there's a lot of other things. But we don't want a pill. We want to know what we can do to fix our sleep so we can fall asleep easier, stay asleep longer, and if we have to get up to go to the bathroom, how to go back to sleep and not be up for 2 hours.
Oh my gosh, you're so right that when we talk about it, it's almost like we've given up trying to find solutions for it. It's just kind of like accepted as something that's a problem now that we're older.
Right. They think it's part of menopause is I'm never going to sleep well again.
Right.
But that's not true. And so we need to be able to give support. And I've been talking about this for the last 12, 13 years.
Well, thank you. Thank you for talking about it because it's so important. My goodness. Certainly, I've been working with midlife women for a long time too, and it's very common. Like we're talking about it being a problem.
Right.
That's
it is a true problem. Because it affects everything. It affects our health. It affects our memory. It affects our mood. It affects our joy.
Yeah.
And so all these things, all these little things, sleep is one of those big foundations of our life.
Yeah.
And it's one of the major health foundations.
Absolutely. And that also isn't as well known as we would think, right? But one of the things that you said before we dive even deeper into sleep and what exactly you do, I think it's fascinating that you found your passion through a burnout solution.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of, you never know where you're going to find it, right?
Yeah.
Like I loved being a respiratory therapist. It's like it's a daily adrenaline rush because all you're doing is putting out fires, like taking care of emergencies. But I can help somebody and they feel it quickly and it changes their life.
That's so good. I love that you found it. And you were so, that was a crossroads moment, when that person quit. You could have just said, that's it, I'm out. Like, but you took it. You took the challenge. And
absolutely.
Yeah, it's really, really cool part of your story. Okay, so how do you help people? What do you do?
So I work mostly one-on-one because I thought I would do a group coach. But what I found is people rather work one-on-one because sleep is kind of intimate. And then when we start talking about it, it's really about there's some physical things that you can do, like getting sunlight and having the right things in your diet and right times of eating and stuff like that. Having a good environment, like reducing clutter. But there's a lot of other things that we don't realize. We don't set boundaries as well as we do. So things like our work, especially now that we work from home a lot more, kind of bleed into our own personal time. And when we don't have our own personal time, we resent it. And then we need to be able to find that personal time. And we give up our sleep to find that personal time.
You are so accurate. Tell me more.
And then the other problem with it is that we have so much on our plate that we haven't time managed things and we're not good at saying no, right?
True. Mm-hmm.
And we're in this really strange position. So especially women at our age, we have children, maybe they're grown, but we still have children. We have a spouse or we don't have a spouse. We have family, but we also have older parents that we have to take care of. We have a house. We have our job. We have what we do in the community because we are very community based as far as volunteer work and stuff. This generation, this Gen Xers, this group is very much about making the community better. So we have all these things and our sleep gets pushed aside. And then we feel cranky and we feel burnt out and we feel like we can't remember we cannot remember where we parked the car or where we put the keys for the car, let alone where we parked it. And so we're fighting all these things and we think it's just part of aging, but really it's a lot of those are symptoms of lack of sleep.
That's so good. Just this morning, I got a lot of steps in looking for my coffee that was lost. I kept walking around the house. It took me a good 7 circles around the house to find my missing cup of coffee. So I thought, is it age? Well, at least it's an opportunity to get some exercise.
But a lot of times things like sleep deprivation, our memory doesn't work as well because we do a lot of things in our sleep that allow, like we consolidate our memories. So basically what we do is we take short-term memory, put it into long-term memory. So it's like emptying the inbox and file cabinet, filling the file cabinet. And so then we can fill the inbox again during the day. But if we didn't empty the inbox, we're putting stuff on top of what is already there. And our brain just is like, yeah, no, I'm not going to remember this. I have too much stuff already to remember.
So it sounds like you must do some kind of a pretty intensive inventory with clients to see where they're at.
So my first is really a conversation with them about where they're at. And then I also give like a sleep journal, but my sleep diary. But my sleep diary isn't just what time you got to bed and what time you wake up. I ask when you have your last meal, what stressed you today, what the little problems that you have, right? That you don't realize may be contributing to sleep issues because everybody's just a little bit different, right? There are a lot of issues that are the same, but then there are other things that are just a little bit different. And so then we make a plan based on what's going on in your life, because I'm not going to give you big sweeping changes, right? I'm going to give you little tiny steps. Let's implement them, see what works, what doesn't work, and tweak it so it will work for you. And then we move on from there and build on that, because that makes the habits lifelong habits. And then we give you tools also to put in your toolbox for specific situations, like when we're traveling, because we like to take vacations now. We're older, we can do that.
Yeah.
So like tools for that, and tools for really stressful situations and how to deal with the stress and not lose as much sleep over it.
Wow.
So it's all about creating that toolbox and also giving you those small changes that you can live with for a lifetime.
Yeah. And increasing awareness of what is actually going on, and appreciating it's more important than I think most people probably think. We've been minimizing it for a long time, right? Because we like to be super women.
Well, the American Heart Association 2 years ago now made it one of the pillars of health. So along with diet and exercise and some of the other things that they have in there, they now put sleep as a pillar.
Wow.
So, and that was just 2 years ago. So we're just starting to realize how much our body does in its sleep.
Amy, that's so good. Now, you mentioned what a lot of us are going through that can interrupt sleep. Things like being in the sandwich generation and having older kids, but we're still worrying about them, and menopause too, like all those things. And that's what I like to talk about in the context of you trying to run the business the way you want to, as well as an entrepreneur. And I find that this is another area of being at this age and stage that people aren't really talking about. But just like sleep, we think we can do it all. And we like to pride ourselves on prioritizing family, and we're very responsible. But life happens in midlife. There are all these classic midlife issues. And I know in your notes, you said that one of your challenges is having older parents that need some care. And that's certainly something that can get in the way of the way that you want to run your life and your business, you know, intentionally, on purpose, the way you really want to. It doesn't mean that you don't want to care for your parents, but like these things come up. So tell me a little bit more about what's going on for you that can get in the way, classic midlife stuff.
My mom's 82, and about 6 months ago, she fell, broke her arm, got it repaired. They put her in the nursing home, and she went into renal failure because the nursing home wasn't doing what it needed to do for her. They put her down as having dementia. So they thought the confusion was just the dementia. And my mother doesn't have dementia.
Wow.
And so they almost killed her. So she went back into the hospital, and then I stayed. So I literally left my family, left my husband, left my son, and went and lived with her for 6 weeks, helping her to rehab and trying to take care of clients at the same time, and making sure she did her physical therapy when she was supposed to, and making sure the nurse came in and did what she was supposed to. So I was doing a lot of that while I was trying to also run my business. But it puts like a dent in things like marketing. You only have so many hats to wear.
Yeah.
So you can't go out marketing when you're busy taking care of your parents, which makes things a little more challenging.
It sure does. Even if you're thinking of doing a Facebook Live, like one of the lowest common denominators that we can do, it still, what are you going to do? Like, I guess in some closet somewhere, I guess there wouldn't even be lighting there. But, you know, there's privacy issues, and it's just a little weird. So
exactly.
Yeah, it's a huge problem. And plus your general mood in a situation like that. I'm sure there were lots of ups and downs and
I had my own stress. I'm sleeping in a bed that's not mine.
Right.
I'm sleeping. It's like sleeping with one ear open because you need to hear her if she needed something. You know, there were a lot of little pieces. So it became really important for me to say, okay, what can I do? What can I do? What can I have somebody else do?
Yeah.
Like hire somebody to do this. And so I've learned that piece of a business too, that there are, you have to hire the people to do some of the things that are going to take too much of your time.
Exactly. And I wonder how many days or weeks did it take you to get that clarity?
Oh, that took me a couple of years.
Right on track.
I'm not a quick learner. I'm like every other woman that, I can do it all.
Yeah.
And we're always trying to do it all. And then you get this moment and you're like, well, I could do it, or I could hire somebody to do this who will get it done much faster. And it's off of my plate.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very hard because you also said that your husband's disabled. So
Yes.
it's a lot to manage. Just those two things are enormous.
It is. But, well, I grew up and I was, the saying goes, God will never give you more than you can handle, but he also will not give you less. I keep reminding myself that I can handle this, but I'm also learning this is what I'm going to send out to somebody else. I'm going to hire somebody on Fiverr for this. I'm going to hire somebody to do. So I have somebody who created like my funnels for me, because I could have written them all and created them, or I could hire somebody and not take as much of my time to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And guarantee that it'll get done.
Right.
This is right. With us, we're dealing and multitasking and doing all the things. It could take way, way, way longer with no guarantee that it will be completed. And just another thing to keep you up at night.
Right.
Yeah. Now, the other thing that you mentioned that I really, really noticed was that you have to constantly remind yourself that you need to focus, and you need to remind yourself to set those boundaries so that you have some undisturbed time. What's that like for you in your home?
So I have my own office, right? And so that's my boundary, although my boundary is constantly like I try to keep the door closed, but that doesn't happen because I have a pug. And the pug likes to come in and out the office, and he likes to sleep underneath my desk and snore while I sleep coach. It's his job to snore.
Perfect.
So he opens the door a lot, but they know when I'm in my office, I'm working. And so nobody comes in here and bothers me unless they have, you're bleeding, somebody's dying, or the house is on fire. They don't come into the office.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Right. So I have to create that boundary, but it's also, I have to create boundaries for myself, because I'll come in here at 8:00 in the morning and I'll still be working until 10:00 at night if I don't create a boundary that says, okay. So I literally put a reminder on my calendar that comes as a pop-up. And then of course it comes on my watch also. But I do not put a reminder that says, oh, time to end work or time to go to get ready for bed or something like that, because my inner 2-year-old's going to come out and he's just going to have a temper tantrum. Right. And we all have that inner 2-year-old.
Yes, we do.
Nobody is going to tell me what to do. And so I'll put something like, I like to do a yoga wind down. So I have yoga and stretching as one of my reminders. Sometimes it's like, okay, time to cook dinner or time to read. And I'll put those kind of reminders in there because those are things that make me happy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm also really careful about where I keep openings on my calendar.
And what have you noticed that you need to do to help you with the openings on your calendar? It sounds like you're strategically creating that space. So what are your little hacks for yourself?
So for me, because I do a lot of international clients, I tend to have early morning and then I have evening. And so then I have that big emptiness in the middle of the day. Oh. And I'll put in there stuff that I want to do in a different color. Like I like to color block stuff. So if I'm going to work on, like, I'm giving a presentation in August, somebody asked me last week to give a presentation in August. So now I'm going to put color blocks in there for me to work on the PowerPoint for that.
That's great. So you're planning ahead and in your calendar, so it's more secure.
Yeah.
It's more protected.
Because if you don't put it on your calendar, you're not going to do it. And we put everyone else on the calendar. You know, the dog, the vet visits are on there. The husband's doctor's visits are on there. My son needs something, that's on there. But anything for me, I didn't put on there until I was like, wait a minute, where am I on my own calendar?
It's so true.
And when we think about it, it comes back to, okay, so now I'm going to age myself.
That's okay. We love age around here.
You remember the Charlie commercial?
Of course.
Right? Where in there, anywhere in there, did we talk about what we needed? We talked about our husband. We talked about our family, the house, our job, but we're not anywhere in that. And we grew up in that generation.
Yeah. We also grew up with Calgon, take us away.
True, we did, but it was, again, it wasn't something that was planned. It wasn't us putting ourselves first. It was like, absolutely. I'm so desperate for some time to myself, I'm going to go take a bath.
That's exactly it. It gets out of hand. And so you, I love that you're putting it in your calendar. That's really good. Now, another thing that you said, I asked about, what do you notice as being an older woman? And I love that you put that you care less about what people think. And, you know, I used to hear that all the time and I was looking forward to it, but I still care a little bit about what people think. I'm noticing it's going down, but it's still there. How are you with that one? And what have you noticed about yourself?
One, I noticed, well, my hair. So for those who are just hearing this, they don't know my hair is purple, right?
That is true.
So my hair is bright purple. I went to a medical conference and you could see all the doctors like avoiding me because like I stood out like a sore thumb. But it becomes that thing where you're like, I am so confident in what I'm doing and I'm doing is important and that I know what I'm doing, that I don't care if you don't understand. I don't care if you don't appreciate it. You're not my clients anyway.
That's right.
Right? These were all sleep doctors and they were researchers and they're all very academic.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you are not talking to the women out there. I'm talking to the women out there. Like, let's keep it real. And I know your problems. So I know I can share with you. And so I feel confident in myself. And people laugh when I say I'm very much an introvert. And I was a wallflower the whole time I was growing up when I was young. I was very shy, very, very introverted. And so they know me now and they're like, oh, you were never an introvert. You were probably the life of the party. I'm like, didn't even go to the party. What are you kidding? But I got to the point where I was like, I don't care what they think, right? I'm going there. I am who I am. My hair is purple. If you don't like it, oh, well. I wear bright colored clothing, even though I'm a bigger woman. I'm not going to live in black and brown. If you don't like it, oh, well.
I love that. So you're more willing to put yourself out there now? Who cares?
Yeah.
Because you just want to help your people. I love that. You're very focused. But it's interesting because you also mentioned that your focus isn't as great. Tell me more about focus. You've noticed it's not the same as when you were younger. I've noticed that too. I feel like, oh, there's a squirrel again. Yay, yes. Something to distract. What's it like for you?
So it's exactly that. We get a lot of shiny object syndrome. And I think that a lot of it is because when we were growing up, we didn't have all the computers and we didn't have all this information. If we wanted to get information, we had to go to the library, look it up in an encyclopedia that was probably outdated by at least 10 years. Now we have so much coming at us. Our brain is like, oh my God, please, what do I need to focus on? And so I'm learning more about taking that mindful minute. Right. I like to do 2 minutes of box breathing to help get me grounded. I also use like other techniques that have a lot to do with our physical senses, because that helps also to ground you. And when I'm talking about grounding, I'm not talking about going outside and putting your feet in the grass. That would not be good in Florida. There are too many red ants.
Oh, my goodness. Right.
But grounding, coming back to center and being focused and then moving forward. I've also figured out that my attention span is about 40 minutes. So if I'm going to make a block of time, I want to keep it to 40, 45 minutes and then take a break. And then I can do another 40, 45 minutes. But if I do it all as an hour and a half, I'm not going to be able to focus for an hour and a half. And then I'll get off on some tangent. And some of my notes when I'm taking in conferences and stuff looks like, oh my God, there's like words all over the paper, because I tend to draw a little bit as I'm going and make diagrams. And so I've learned that I have to kind of focus and that I can only take it in pieces.
Such good self-awareness. Such good self-awareness. So tell me, when it comes to your business, what are you going to focus on next? Speaking of focus.
So focus, I actually have two focuses. I'm really focusing on women our age. We need the help and we're getting the least of it. We are at the bottom of the food chain in medical research. We're at the bottom of the food chain. You go to a doctor and say that you're having problems sleeping, they'll put you on an antidepressant or give you a sleeping pill and wish you luck. I'm focusing on us because nobody's caring. There are very few who care. There's a lot more focus on athletes and on executives and not us. And then the other thing I'm focusing on is I want to make more of me. Right? You want to leave the world in a better place. And for me, that means that we need to find other sleep coaches, people who have medical backgrounds. So it's based in science, the science of sleep, the science of goal setting, the science of coaching, So we need to create programs. So that's my other focus, is creating the program to make a bunch of sleep coaches.
I love that. That's a pretty big goal.
If I do that, that leaves the world in a lot better place.
I love how you're thinking about it as just like a big impact, right? And you're right. If there's more need than you have ability to help, then there's a gap, and you're the perfect person for that. What do you think about retiring? Is that coming into your mind at all?
No, because I don't think, one, I'd probably be bored to tears, but I love what I do. Now, my idea is that at some point in time, I'm going to be able to afford an RV, and then I can just coach wherever, and I can teach wherever, and I'll be behind the wheel driving my RV, going to see the places I want to see and coach, because there are places in the United States I haven't gotten to yet. And I haven't been to Canada since I was like 12. Oh, so I want to go back up there.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah, that's so fun. I've met some people doing that sort of thing, and internet becomes an issue. You have to always make sure that you're really clear on where the good internet is. But, oh man, that's a great dream for a lot of us, to just drive and see everything there is to see. So cool.
But they are getting better internet. Like, there's more satellite internet that you can get. So it's not becoming as big a problem. So right now, like, a lot of my vacations, I do them on cruise ships, and I can coach while I'm on a cruise ship because they have good internet now. They didn't in the beginning, but since COVID happened and they now opened up again, they realized people are going to work from the ship. And so they have good internet.
It's a beautiful thing. And that's a beautiful thing. Now, what do you think one of the most surprising things about being over 50 and being an entrepreneur is?
I don't know that there was a lot that surprised me about it, other than how big the community is.
Wow.
And how supportive the community is. Like, at least as far as women entrepreneurs go, we do not ever see each other as competition. Very rarely. We see more that, what can I do to support you? And we, as a community of entrepreneurs, are always out there supporting each other.
That's so true. I really agree with you and see it myself. And it's one of the reasons I love having this platform, creating this platform of how we can talk about it more. And, also when you're dealing with midlife stuff as an entrepreneur, when things are getting in the way with people that you really love, and just aging and your mindset about aging and just all that stuff, it's just so good to know that you're not alone in that either. You're not the only one who's struggling with sleep, and you're not the only one struggling with taking care of aging parents and trying to run a business,
Right.
I love having that platform and helping, for sure. Now, your work is so important. What's the best way to get a hold of you? Is it your website?
So I have a website that's akorncoaching.com. It's AKORN. But I'm also on LinkedIn, and I'm on Facebook and Instagram. So you can always contact me and direct message me that way. I do have a little video that I created for people so they can get 3 tips that they can implement tonight to help them to sleep better. And I think that that's so important. And you can sign up for that on my website.
Oh, that's amazing. I love 3 tips. 3 tips I can manage.
Right? If I gave you more, your brain would go, no, I can't deal. This is too much change. But if it's 3 little things that you could do tonight that will help you sleep better, that we can all manage.
Definitely. I love your perspective about all of this, that sleep is really more than what's happening in your bed. And so many of us now, even if we don't have CPAP, we're sleeping with somebody who has CPAP. I mean, the CPAP is why we got a king size bed instead of a queen. It's like, can you move you and your stuff over a little bit? You're telling it's like, whenever I talk to him about CPAP, I'm waving my arms like an octopus. It just seems like it's everywhere. So I know that some of the CPAP machines are getting a little bit more smaller. But when I think about sleep, I do think about it in the bedroom. But you're right. And what you've shown today in the interview is it's so much more than that.
Yeah, it really is. And yes, sleeping with somebody with a CPAP can be a little bit interesting. But the new CPAPs are like 3 pounds. They're like small. They're super quiet. The masks are not what they were even 5 years ago. And so, like, one of the things about especially women is we don't think we have sleep apnea. And menopause, women tend to not develop sleep apnea until they hit menopause. And we do not always snore when we have sleep apnea. We show different symptoms than men. And of course, you go into the doctor and he goes, well, are you snoring? And you're like, no, I'm not. And so he just assumes you don't have sleep apnea. And that is not necessarily the case. So I want people to know that there are certain symptoms, like you're waking up with a headache every morning, your mouth is dry every morning, you wake up and you're kind of foggy. But it's also things like you have high blood pressure and it's hard to control. Your blood sugars are very high or very low in the morning and they're very hard to control. Those are all signs that you might have sleep apnea, something that's easily treated and will make your life so much better.
Amy, you've shared so much, and I think you really did a great job of sharing the perspective that it's a bigger deal than many of us think. It's not something that is just that we need to just stay up later and later and later to get more done or to finally find some time for ourselves. And there are other ways. There are other ways to manage your life. And also the fact that you had a burnout situation yourself and started to deal with some of these issues personally, it just puts you in such a great position to really understand what creates pushing yourself to a point that you're not taking care of yourself with a fundamental thing like sleep. So thank you so much for sharing all of this.
It was my pleasure. I was so glad to do it.
Amazing. All right. That's it for now. If you're listening and loving what you hear, please like and subscribe. Reviews are great too and much appreciated. And if you're a woman in the middle who's 50 or over and an entrepreneur and would also like to come on the show, please go to www.midlifeinterviews.com and fill out an application. I'd love to have you on to share your story. Thanks so much for listening. It's never too late for you to put yourself on your agenda. I'm Suzy Rosenstein, and I'll talk to you again soon. Now, real quick before we say goodbye, if you are connecting with this show, I'd love to invite you to a happiness breakthrough coaching session. It's my laser-focused coaching call that will help you get clear about what's getting in your way as a woman in the middle entrepreneur and confident about your next steps to more happiness in your next chapter. Head over to www.nextchapterbreakthrough.com. Talk to you soon.